And finally, the Business of Trucks welcomes a panel of industry-based commentators to speak out about some of the key issues affecting the industry. Now, in a time of recession, truck operators are forced to maintain and look after their vehicles even more vigorously in an attempt to cut down on possible replacement costs. With this reality, the truck's spare parts industry starts to play an increasingly important role. Now, joining me in studio to give us some insight into the industry is Jeff Osborne, CEO of the RMI, and Wayne Lodder, Director of AfintaPart. Gentlemen, thank you very much for joining us. Jeff, we'll start with you, obviously from the RMI's point of view. The spare parts industry for commercial vehicles, it's a 40 billion rand a year industry, isn't it?
Certainly, very big indeed, Mark. There's no question about that, and growing all the time.
And as far as the, we're in a situation now where the government is trying to crack down on counterfeit or pirate parts or whatever you would want to call them across all types of industries in the country, whether it's Bafana shirts or what have you. But it is an issue facing the industry, isn't it?
Very much so, and to that extent the RMI has always had a dedicated focus in trying to eliminate and to eradicate that as far as possible. But we try not to use the term pirate because it is somewhat misleading, because in reality you have vehicle manufacturer branded parts, which are generally a prerequisite to warranty requirements, but then there's a huge aftermarket, as we refer to it, bearing in mind that vehicle manufacturers don't actually manufacture parts. They are supplied to them by a huge international and local component manufacturing industry, and these same parts, same quality, are available in the aftermarket, often branded differently but of the same quality.
And quality is obviously key, Jeff. I mean, as far as AfintaPart is concerned, getting those parts into the market in a time where people are really watching their bottom line is very important, isn't it?
Yeah, well, you know, we make sure, and we are under the umbrella of RMI, which we run. So if there is any problems with the parts, or the customers have got any problems with the parts, you know, we do run under the umbrella of RMI. We have to run under the SABS approved sticker as well, or how would I put it? But you know, it is very important that we sell a good quality part, and AfintaPart, obviously we do that. You know.
And I think, Jeff, I mean, everything has to be put through some kind of SABS approval, doesn't it? Whether it's a part that's being supplied directly from the OEM or through a distributor.
No, certainly there are standards and criteria that have to be met. But of course the challenge lies in the fact that there are a significant number of parts coming into the country, both in the commercial trucking market and the passenger car market, of a very inferior nature, predominantly from the east. And our estimation is that it probably makes up about 10% of the parts traded in South Africa, and particularly worrying where safety critical parts are concerned, like brakes and steering components. So they do come into the market. There is a demand for them because they are cheap and nasty, and the regs and specs are there, but enforcement, of course, is always a challenge.
Enforcement's the very difficult thing, isn't it, Jeff? Because we're looking at trucks which travel not just within South Africa's borders, where we can hopefully rely on some level of enforcement, but they travel up into Africa as well, don't they?
Yeah, and you know, our warranties that the AfintaPart do give are the same as what the OEs give. So you know, as far as our warranties are concerned, you know, with that kind of stuff, you know, it's important that we supply the same kind of quality that the OEMs do supply. I mean, obviously some of the parts wouldn't be coming out of the same countries, but you know, we do give the same warranty. So as far as the truck going out of the country, we wouldn't have a problem. It's just the trucks coming into the country that we would have a problem with.
Now the difficulty is there is a lot of pressure on fleet managers and operators to reduce their costs at the moment. What are they actually looking for, Jeff? I mean, how can you spot the difference between the original, the proper part, and one that isn't?
It's a very difficult one, Mark. Even to the trained eye, it's very difficult to tell. However, if it's suspiciously too cheap, then it should be questioned. And I think where the trucking market is concerned in particular, downtime is very costly time. And from a parts replacement perspective, what is critical to a truck operator is, first of all, availability, quality, and receiving the right spec. So whilst obviously price is significant, I would suggest that perhaps, unlike the vehicle market, to some extent it's not quite as important. The availability is absolutely critical. I mean, if a truck breaks down the side of the road, it's vulnerable, time has been lost, the load can be hijacked. So I'd like to believe that the reputable truck operators look at quality and availability before looking at price. And certainly they wouldn't go for cheap and nasty. They shouldn't, in the terms of the interest of safety and also their own costs.
one of those usual things of if it's cheap and it seems too good to be true, then it probably is. Jeff, as far as the whole distribution chain is concerned, because obviously there are people that are going to be buying these parts and bringing them into the country because they're increasing their margins on it, it's cheaper for them, and that works all the way down to the customer, doesn't it?
Yes. We import and we buy locally. So our imported is about 60% of our product that we bring into the country, which is all, it has to go through the right channels and make sure that the parts are correct, which the SABS do come into our offices and have a look at and take parts out and then go test it. So yes, it is very, very, very important.
Okay, so SABS is doing proper testing, yes, and regular spot checks?
Yes, so they come to our offices every six weeks, and they come in and they would take some of the parts away and go test it and then tell us if it's all right, yes or no. If it's not, we actually have to take the part off the shelf.
Okay, and the other question is, I mean, you talked about brakes, safety critical components, Jeff. The issue of enforcement on our roads, it's an ongoing problem, isn't it, as far as the truck industry is concerned?
Very definitely, Mark, and certainly we're pushing for the same, by the way, where the passenger car market is concerned, i.e. for an annual safety check, if you like. But the rules and regulations are all firmly in place, but we question the expertise and the levels of enforcement that accompany that.
Yeah, but the annual safety check, similar to in Europe, in the UK, for example, where they have the MOT,
yes,
which is one way of making sure that vehicles, whether they're cars or trucks, is definitely roadworthy.
Absolutely, absolutely.
Yeah, it's every 2 years they have to have it done,
yeah.
I think.
The trucking is every 2 years, but of course, where passenger cars are concerned, you only have to do it when the car changes hands. So, in theory, you could buy a car now and drive it for 20 years and never have it tested.
But Jeff, doesn't it also come back down to the issue of enforcement, that there aren't the skills or even the focus as far as law enforcement is concerned in this country?
We can't get too involved with that kind of thing, is because it's not really up to us. Up to us as the parts distributor in this country is to make sure that the parts are SABS approved, that the part is when it's critical, when it goes onto the truck, that we know as a parts distributor that we're not going to have any, we must make sure that it's SABS approved, and I mean that's what we're there for. Being aftermarket, it's not the same as being an OE. OE is already SABS approved because it's already done when the truck is launched. But with us, it's after the part is aftermarket, like we are, is to make sure that it's the correct part, that the truck is, when the truck needs to stop, the truck needs to stop, and that's where we come into it.
So the trick is always, if in doubt, make sure you check with somebody like the RMI or with proper reputable distributors.